Happy Hump Day, YouTube. If only Hump Day lived up to its name. Anywho, last night the Leafs were in Buffalo to take on arch nemesis, or one of their arch nemesis, Nemesi, whatever the plural is for nemesis. I always do this, but the Buffalo Sabres, who I hate with a passion. I have for a long time. I used to like them back in the old days when I was a kid with, Andrechuk and LaFontaine and all those guys. But ever since the Leafs moved to the East years ago and this rivalry became ignited, I have hated them with a passion. And the Buffalo's always had the Leafs number. No matter whether the Leafs are good or bad, Buffalo's good or bad, they always seem to lose to these fucking clowns. And especially in Buffalo. The rivalry, just like the Battle of Ontario, it's been stale for the last number of years because the Leafs were terrible. But now that they're better, and Buffalo finally, after drafting a bunch of guys, they're finally good this year, or have been playing well so far up to the first, quarter point or whatever it's been in the season. So last night's game was an entirely different affair from what we've seen out of Toronto Buffalo over the last number of years, and it looks to be the beginnings of, a really good rivalry kind of reignited. So the Leafs got off to a slow start in the first, as that just seems to be their way. They don't play well in the first period for some reason. But I think they were kind of in Buffalo waiting for them because they hadn't played since Saturday, I guess. I think. And Buffalo, meanwhile, played in Nashville the night before. So I don't know if the Leafs underestimated them or whatever, but either way, they weathered the storm in the first period, and came out of it in a 0-0 tie. And then in the second period, the scoring started, and the Leafs got on the board first, and then they would trade goals up until early in the third, and it would be 2-2 in the third, and then not long after Buffalo tied it up early in the third, they would take their first lead of the game. But the Leafs, you never count them out because they've got so much scoring potential, and sure enough, with just over 5 minutes left in the third, Marleau tied things up to send it to overtime, and so there was at least a point in the bank, and the 3-on-3 overtime period with these two teams was pretty entertaining. It had been a great game up until then, pretty wide open and fast paced, and lots of skill and scoring on display, and some great goaltending as well. And I should note that Matthews got the Leafs' first goal, and Gardner got the second, and then Marleau, like I said, tied it up. In the overtime frame, it looked like it was going to a shootout because they traded chances, but the goalies stood tall. And then with, I think, maybe like 2.5 seconds left or something like that, the Leafs mounted one last rush, and Matthews just unleashed one of his patented snapshots, top cheese over, was it Hutton? Allmark was in that, right over his glove, and just, there's no chance. Unless your glove's already there, you're not stopping it, not with that shot. And he has this ability to kind of pull the puck in towards him just before he shoots it, and his shot's unbelievable. So he can pull it around defenders, so it's like they're screened to begin with, and then he just pulls it around the defender and snaps it quickly. And it's like, on top of the shot just being amazing, perfectly placed and hard as hell, he's got this additional ability to kind of create his own screen, so it's amazing, now that he's been back in the lineup for a few games. He's already got, I think, 5 goals in 3 games or whatever it's been since he's been back. So, so the Leafs win 4-3 in overtime against the hated Sabres and bank 2 more points. And those two teams are tops in the East. They were separated only by a point before that game began, so they got a bit of breathing room there for at least the next couple days, anyways. But so it was a great game, and the only kind of downside to the day was with Nylander signing on the weekend. They had to make a roster move, and I thought it would just be a demotion to the Marlies or whatever, but they ended up trading Josh Levo to Vancouver, of all places, for some minor league guy, Michael Carsoni or something, I don't know. Never heard of him, but I was disappointed because I had been a big believer in Levo since the Leafs picked him up. Or I think they drafted him, but he's been in the system for quite a few years and never really got his fair shake up until this year, and I thought he was doing well. So I did not think that he was going to be the guy to leave the team. and worst of all, by trade. So Levo to me just looked like a hockey player. You know, he just looked like everything a hockey player should be. He looked the part. He played the part. Everything about him screamed, I like this guy. Like, I want him to be part of this team. But for some reason, the Leafs never seemed to want to keep him in the lineup for long. He was only ever a call-up, and he'd come up and score all the time. But I don't know. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. But still, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't want to keep him. But anyways, at least he'll get a shot in Vancouver. And they've got a lot of young talent there now. So hopefully he'll get a chance there and do something. But Vancouver, of all places, I hate the Canucks. I used to like the Canucks back in the day when, you know, after Felix Potvin left the Leafs, Vancouver was one of his stops. I even got a Canucks jersey with Potvin on the back. I loved the Bertuzzi, Naslund, Morrison years. And then suddenly they started getting all these players, the Sedin twins, who I couldn't stomach, Burrows, Kessler, oh, awful. Just players you just love to hate, you know, Bieksa, and then that disgraceful display by them and the whole city of Vancouver during the Stanley Cup Finals, when they, you know, sulked that they lost to Boston. Right? It's just one more reason to make you totally hate the Canucks franchise. And a lot of those guys are gone now, moved on, or some of them even retired. But you know, once you hate a team that badly, it takes a long time for you to forget that, right? So it's too bad of all places he went to the Canucks, but it is what it is. So so au revoir, Josh Levo. I'm upset that you didn't get a chance with the Leafs, but good luck in Vancouver. And but there will be no mercy when we play you. Anyways, that is all for now. I haven't even looked at the schedule to when they're playing next, but doubtless I will be back the next time they do. Bye-bye.